Right, we are now on part 2 of this ID application. And if you remember from the first video, we just created the layout files and we set all the color schemes. So what we want to do next is now to connect these components to coding so that we can get whatever the user typed there. And then when he clicks the button, he interacts with the button, we want to show the results from the ID number that we gathered. So for this, we need the connected Java file. So we need to go into our Java folder. So make sure you're here under Android and then go into the app folder there, go into Java, open up your first folder and then open up your main activity.java. Now you can remember that we said for every activity, for every screen that the user sees, there will be two files. There will be an activity file, which will be a Java file, and there will be a layout file. So we are now done with the layout part, or basically done with the layout part. So in this part there, we defined how the layout should look, what the user will see. Now in the corresponding Java file, we need to set up the components so that we can handle whatever the user is doing. So if the user is typing a new ID number there and clicks on submit, what should our application do? And that is what will be defined inside of the main activity.java or the Java file. So now before we connect those components, one main thing here in the main activity, you'll see it extends app compat activity. We start in the onCreate. Remember, the onCreate method is the very first method that runs when your activity starts. So that's why we start in the onCreate. Basically, the first line we get there is the setContentView method, and this setContentView sets the content view for the main activity. So basically we're saying when this activity starts, that's called main activity, we want to show which layout. In this case, we're referring to main activity, which is this main underscore activity XML. Right, so what does this mean again? What does the r.layout.main activity mean? In short, it basically means that in the resources folder, there's a layout folder, and that layout folder, you'll get the main activity XML, which is this one. So our main activity is connected to this file. So when the main activity starts, it will set its content view as this layout file that we just designed. But to get a bit more complicated, let's quickly go to the project folder, open up the first folder there, open up app, open up build, open up generated. Let's open up source then, go into R, and then you'll see that your project folder will be there. There it is. I'm going to open that one, and there you'll see the r.java file. So what we're essentially referring to there is this r.java file. Now this r.java file, you can see it's under the generated folder, which means that you should not change anything in this class. This class gets generated automatically. So I'm going to open up that file, and I'm going to quickly go back to Android. So everything that you basically do inside of your resources folder will automatically be generated inside of the r.java file. For example, if I go up a bit, you can see, I'm just going to go right to the top now. You can see that this class is a final class R. Inside of this class, we've got a few other classes. And one of these classes, if you just go and search for it, search for class layout there and click on enter, it takes you to the layout class. So inside of the r.java file, which is a class, the R class, you find another inner class called layout. Now if you go to main activity again, so you can see we're referring to the r.java file. Inside of the R class, there's a class called layout, and inside of that layout class there's a property called main activity. And that is essentially what we're referring to. So what happens with your r.java file, if you create anything in your resources folder, whether it's a picture, whether it's an ID on a component, whether it's a strings XML entry, whether it's a color, whatever, it gets saved into one of these classes as a property. So you can see there's the layout. So everything in your layout folder there will be saved here as a property, and you can see your main activity saved there. You can also see that there's the mipmap class, for example, if you put anything in mipmap. There's the string resources. So every string resource that you create will actually come in here. Also, you can see there's our app name, for example. Everything will go into your strings resources, and your styles will go here, and so forth. So we've got a class for everything that we create inside of the resources folder. We'll come back to this R.java file again, but basically what happens then is we're saying go to that R.java file that's automatically generated, go to the layout class, and in the layout you'll find a layout with the name main activity, which is in fact referring to this whole activity or this whole XML file. Right, so that is just a bit of background on what is the R.java file and why is it there. But basically you don't need to know anything about the R.java file. You just need to know how to reference it. It will automatically be generated. So basically, in short, R means it's in the resources folder. Layout means it's in the layout class there or the layout folder, and there's a main activity XML file. Right, now the next thing that we want to do now in coding is we want to make a connection to these three components. So we've got enter the ID number, we've got the button, this one is called an edit text, this one is a button, and that one is a text view. Now in order to work with these components in coding, we need to give them an ID. So for this one, you can see the ID is just called edit text, which is not a good way of doing it. So what I like to do is, let's say it is an edit text in this case, I will start off the ID with ET for edit text. For a button, I will start with BTN for button. And with a text view, I'll start with a TV, text view. So it's up to you how you want to do this. You'll see in coding that it's a bit easier to do it this way. So I'm going to call this one ET and then give it a description ID. So I know all my IDs that starts with an ET is edit texts. And all my IDs that starts with a BTN is buttons. And all my IDs that starts with a TV is text views. Okay, so I'm going to say this one ET ID. This one will be, let's call this one BTN submit. And we call that one TV results. And now you can see on your component tree also, you can see the IDs. ET ID, BTN submit, and TV results. So it's very important that if you're going to interact with these components and you change it on screen, you need to have IDs for your components. Now, just to quickly show you how this generated now in the R.java file, let's go back to the R.java file. I closed it now. I'm going to go into app. Let's go to build again, generated, source, R, go into that one. Okay, so let's search quickly for class ID. So remember we created IDs now. So let's look at the IDs quickly. We should get, for example, a TV at the bottom somewhere. And if you go to the bottom of the ID class, you'll see that there's, for example, TV results. If I go up and we search for ET, there's ET ID that we just created. And we'll also see the other one was for the BTN submit, and there you can see the BTN submit ID. So it's under the ID class inside of the R.java file. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the main activity, and now we need to set up those three components. So the first component is called an edit text. So you'll see that Android Studio gives you some autocomplete functionality. So you can just start typing edit text and then click on it, and you can see it adds the import for the edit text automatically. And then I'm going to call it the same as I had my IDs in the layout file. So for this one, it's called ETID. So I'll name it exactly the same here. Why do I do that? Do you need to do it? No, definitely not. It's just easier for me to see that this one belongs to this ID there. So I name them exactly the same, so it's easier to work with. Then the next component was the button. So let's say that you don't choose the button there. Another way of doing this is also to go and say Alt-Enter, and Alt-Enter will also add the import for you if you do not select it. So we're going to say button, and we call that one button BTN submit. And then the last component was a text view, and we call that TV results. So just declare your button and your edit text and your text view at the top. Now the next step is to actually take this variable of us that's currently a Java variable, and we want to connect that variable to a component that's on an XML file. So how do we do that? Luckily for us, this R.java file makes it available for us in Java to refer to that specific component in memory. So what we can do now is to say ETID should be, and there's a nice method that we can use that's part of activities. So if you extend app compat activity, you will have this method available to you. So we're going to find a view by its ID, and we're going to go to the R.java file. We're going to go to the ID class, and we want to get that specific etid. Right, let's just do the same for the button also. So we're going to say btn submit equals find view by ID, and again r.id.btn submit. Let's do the last one also. So it's going to be TV results equals find the view by its ID, r.id. That one is called TV results. Okay, so now what we've got here is 3 Java variables connected to 3 different IDs that's on a specific layout file. So the layout file where we will find these must now be on the one where you set the content view. So if I say main activity there and then use find view by ID, it's going to try and find the view by its ID on the main activity, which is this file. So if you do not have an ID there with that specific ID, then it will give you a problem. So just remember that in the R.java file, doesn't matter where in which layout file it is, it will start adding IDs. So you must make sure that your content view is set correctly for your activity. So main activity is this one, and then on this one, we are finding the view by its ID by referring to these IDs. So now after these 3 lines, etid, the Java variable, is now connected to etid, which is this one. And the same for the btn submit and TV results is now connected to btn submit and TV results. Right, so now that we have the components connected in coding, now what we want to do is to go and see what happens when the users start interacting with these components. So obviously when the user starts typing something in there, we don't want to do anything. We want to wait until he's done there and he clicks on the submit button. As soon as he clicks on the submit button, we want to get whatever he typed there. So for this, we need to set a click event on our button. Now this we call an on-click listener. So let's go to the button component, which is btn submit. It's already connected now to btn submit. So then we can say set on-click listener. So just start typing until you get this. Set on-click listener. Click it, and then in the brackets you'll say new on-click listener. Just start typing on, and you'll see it gives you this view.onClick listener. Right, so basically now we've set an on-click listener to the button, so that when the user clicks on the button, we will go into this pod and into the on-click method. So when the user clicks on the button, it will go into the on-click method, and we can now do whatever we want to do. So now if the user clicks on the submit button, what do we want to do? We want to get the ID number from the user. So now in order to get the ID number from the user, let's just start with a variable, and we can call this ID, or let's just call it ID number equals. Now we're going to refer to that edit text, which is this one called etid. And from that etid, we want to get the text that the user typed. So I'm going to say etid, like I declared it there, dot get text, that gets the text, dot toString converts that text to a string so that we can use it. And then if needed, you can also use the trim method. So the trim method also belongs to any string in Java that takes away any leading and trailing white space that the user entered. So it's up to you whether you want to use trim there. So let's say, if, for example, you're asking the user for his email address, and you know that most keyboards adds a space after the email address, and that could give you some problems. So by using the trim method, you are removing the space at the back and at the beginning of text. Right, so this is an important line of coding where we go to the edit text, whatever the user typed, we get it, convert it to a string, and then if needed, you can trim it. Right, so now we have the ID number, and we've got the full ID number. So you remember, this is the ID number. If the user then types the whole ID number, what do we want to extract from this? So I'm not going to make this a lot complicated. I just want to get the date of birth, and you can see the date of birth is the first 6 characters basically in the ID. It's those 6. So if we want to take a substring as in Java, we will take it from position number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember that strings are numbered in characters from position 0. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now you're asking, but why am I talking about a string and this is numbers? Well, we want to extract this whole number as a string, as text, so that we can work with all the individual numbers. So in this case, we're going to extract the 880123 just to get the date of birth. So we want to extract from position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 to 5 is the characters that we want to extract. So I'm going to call this one string DOB for date of birth, and we're going to get that string by saying ID number, that's the whole ID. So ID number will refer to the whole ID number. And on that ID number, I want to only extract the first 6 characters. So I'm going to call the substring method where we've got a begin index and an end index. The begin index will be at position 0 and the ending index will be at position 5 actually. But the substring works in this way that you say it's going from position 0 up until position 6 minus 1. So this will extract position 0 up until position 5. So if you look again at your picture, it's going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is not included. So that 6, the last one there, is not included. Right, so now we have the date of birth. We've got the ID number. From the ID number, we have the date of birth. So the next thing that we can extract from this will basically be the gender, whether you're male or female. And they say it's the next 4 digits are used. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the next 4 digits. Those 4 digits will tell us whether it's female or male. But you will also see that male will be from 0 to 4,999. So basically, we can just look at the 5 there. If it's a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, or a 0, we know it's female. If it's a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we know it's a male. Okay, so we're only going to extract this one character, and that is at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at position 6. So let's just quickly extract that one. So I'm going to use that as an integer because I want to compare to see if it's less than or greater than 5 or whatever. So I'm going to call this one, that is for the gender. So I'm going to say int gender equals, going to the ID number again, dot character at, to get a character at a specific position, and the position where we want the character is at position 6. So let's just go to that one again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Position 6 is the character we want. Now you'll see that we do not have any errors here, even though we're extracting a character and we're receiving an integer on the other side. That's because characters can also be represented as integer numbers in ASCII code. So unfortunately, the value that we will get there will not be correct. So what we want to do is to first convert this character to a string and then convert that character back to an integer. Right, so the easiest way to convert anything to a string will just be to add a double quotation mark there. But that could in some cases, it could give you some problems. So what we will do here is to use the character class. I'm going to say character dot toString, which converts any character to a string. And then I close the bracket. So we will basically say get the character at position number 6 and convert it to a string. And then what we want to do is to convert this string now to an integer. So I'm going to do the following: integer dot parseInt. And the parseInt method takes any string and converts that to an integer. Right, so now we've got the character at position 6, which will be a number. First we convert that to a string and then we convert it to an integer. So now we've got the integer value there of the value that was at position 6. So in this case, it's an integer value of 5. So let's quickly do the check there. We're going to say if this gender value, if we just quickly look at the picture again, they say if it is 0 to a 4, which means if it's less than 5, then we know it should be a female. So let's just make it less than 5. If it's less than 5, which means 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, then we know the gender should be a female. So let's just declare a string value here. So I'm going to call it S gender for the string version of the gender. Let me just check that again. So if it's less than 5, it's female. So we're going to set S gender here to female. The else part there will be that S gender should be male. Right, so that's basically the gender, that value that you receive. If it's less than 5, it should be female. Otherwise, it will be a male if it's 5 or more. Right, so the next part that we need to extract from this picture should be your citizenship. So the citizenship will be this character there. So if we just quickly have a look at the characters again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is position number 10. So let's just do this again. I'm going to use an integer again. Let's call it nationality. Again, we can do this whole thing there that we did. So I'm going to copy that part, paste it. But instead of extracting character number 6, we want to extract character number, or position number 10. So now we've got the nationality as an integer, but ultimately we also want that nationality as a string. So I'm going to call it S nationality. And we're going to do the same thing. So what do we need to compare here? If it is a 0, then it's an SA citizen. Else it will be a permanent resident. So we're going to test if the nationality is a 0, then S nationality should be SA citizen. The else will be S nationality will be permanent resident. Right, so 0, SA citizen, permanent resident is if it's a 1, if it's not a 0. Okay, so now we've got the full ID number, we've got the date of birth, we've got the gender, and we've got the nationality. So now we've got all the information, and we need to show this information now to the user. How do we do that? So where do we show the information to the user? We want to use this text view. So this text view is called TV results, on the left hand side, TV results, and we linked it up with this variable called TV results. So the only thing that we need to go and do now is to go and say TV results dot set text, and that sets some text to that specific text view. So what do we want to set now here? We want to show all this information. So the first thing we want to show here is to go and say, let's start with the date of birth. So we're going to say date of birth, and then show our DOB variable. So there we had the date of birth. So we show the date of birth. Then I can go to a new line character and then show the rest. So after that date of birth, we will show the gender and show our, well, in this case, our S gender. And then go to a new line again. And then the last one we want to show is the nationality. And then because it's the last thing, we're not going to add a new line character again. So basically we want to set the text as date of birth, then show the date of birth, the gender, then show the gender, and the nationality. Oh, we must remember to show the nationality as well. And that will be S nationality. So remember that S gender is the string version, male or female, and S nationality is the string version, SA citizen or permanent resident. And that is setting the results on your screen for the user to see. Right now you'll see that Android Studio is showing you something like this that says do not concatenate text with set text, use resources with placeholders and so forth. So if you okay with this, you can carry on using your application just like it is, without any problems. But you remember that in the strings XML file is where we should basically place all of our text. So if we want to get rid of this error, what we can do is to go into this date of birth, use Alt-Enter, and then go to the date of birth. So if we want to get rid of this error, what we can do is to go into this date of birth, use Alt-Enter, and then go to the date of birth. So if we want to get rid of this error, what we can do is to go into this date of birth, use Alt-Enter, and then go to the date of birth. and extract the string resource for it. So I'm going to call this one, let's say DOB, date of birth. And now in my strings XML, you'll see that there's DOB, date of birth. So now in my Java file, how you refer to it is by saying get string, that gets your strings XML. And in that strings XML, there's an ID called DOB. And that's the one that you're referring to. That's the DOB. Okay, so we can do the same for the gender. Alt-Enter, extract the string resource, call it gender. The same for the nationality. Alt-Enter, extract the string resource, call it nationality. And you can see that it still gives you a problem, so we can do the new line character as well. Alt-Enter, extract the string resource, call it new line, say OK. I'm going to copy that one for the new line because that one is exactly the same. We're going to use the new line character there again. Okay, so this is then the text that, and you can see even though you've added this now into the strings XML, it still gives you a problem because it doesn't like you to concatenate using the setText method. So to overcome this, you can go and say string text should be, and then you just copy everything that you had in that setText method. Copy it, or let's cut it, and we paste it there. And just put your semicolon at the end. And then we send in the text property there, or the text variable. And then Android Studio is fine with this. It's got no problems further on. You can also do the same for this female there. Alt-Enter, extract the string resource, call it female. For that male there, Alt-Enter, extract the string resource, call it male. For SA citizen, the same thing. Alt-Enter, extract SA cit. Same for permanent resident. Alt-Enter, let's call it permanent. And then you've got everything now in your strings XML. So if you do any translations, everything that you translate from here will then be translated in your coding as well. Okay, so that's basically getting rid of all the errors there. Let's run this quickly and see how this runs on our device. Right, so if your application is running then on the phone, should not be any problems. You can see, this is now the first time we run it. You can see that in my colors XML, my accent color is this green or lime color. So you'll see in my virtual device also, that's the lime color there that I have underneath my edit text. So you can see one problem here is that we do not want to have the user see this text view there. We want to only have the user see this as soon as he clicks on the submit button. So we'll fix that now. So we can add the ID number there. Let's take something like 74 01 27. Let's say something like that. So if I click on submit now, you can see it gives me the date of birth. Okay, so now we can see that /n did not work very nicely with my strings XML. So we will get back to that one. So there's the date of birth, there's the gender male. So that 5 there is a male. If I make it a 4, it should be female. The nationality is an SA citizen, but if I make that 0, let's say a 1, it should now be a permanent resident. So let's just quickly fix a few things here. Let's go back to the main activity. Instead of this new line character there, I'm going to add a new line character there. And the same there. For this new line character, we will add a /n there for the new line character. Now we can test it quickly to see if it looks better now. Okay, so let's just add the ID number again. Let's say something like this. Click on it, and now the date of birth, the male or the gender, and the nationality is shown to the user correctly on a new line, and that's what the new line character is doing for us. So now the next thing that we want to change is that text view right at the beginning. So when the user opens up the application for the first time, we do not want him to see this text view. So this text view is declared as TV results. So just after you've initialized that variable, we can go to TV results and we can set the visibility on it to view.gone. and that will remove TV results from the layout totally. Now, as soon as the user clicks on the button and we've set the results to it, we can set that visibility back. So we can say, sorry about that, let's just say TV results dot set the visibility, and I'm going to say view dot visible, and that will make it visible again. So right from the beginning, it will not be shown, it will be gone, but as soon as we click on the button and we worked out everything, we show it to the user. So let's see if that works. All right, so you can see that the application starts without any text view there. So I'm going to try and add an ID number again. Let's say something like this. Click on submit, and as soon as I clicked on submit, you can see that these values appeared. Okay, so that's it for your very first application. It's a very important application, this. It teaches you a lot of things about the Android operating system, or how you need to code in order to create your applications and connect components. So make sure that you go through this video again and you understand the concepts.